Whether you're new to the hobby of action figure collecting or you've been doing it for decades, you know that some of the fun should be the hunt, the treasure hunt for figures. And the Power of the Force 2 line that kicked off modern Star Wars collecting was not without its fair share of treasure hunts. Some figures being super easy to find and lasting on shelves for 10 to 15 years. I'm looking at you, Collection 2 yellow card figures, and others being really, really hard to find. In particular, there were quite a few gems like Reese from the Freeze Frame Slide series or the R2-D2 from the Comtech series. In fact, the Boba Fett with Zipline from 2012, I'm still looking for. So hey, if anyone has one they want to sell loose, let me know. Alright, well, having the hunt be on is part of the fun, and when new waves hit, it means it's time to start toy hunting. And one of the earlier waves that was really hard to find was today's subject, the one with Piett and Vader without a helmet. In fact, this wave wound up being so hard to find that a lot of fans couldn't find it until the following wave shipped, and these figures were shipped along with that wave. Boy, I'm seeing Vader and inverting words here. Alright, well, let's talk about Darth Vader, because he was kind of the bell cow of the wave and the most well-known character to ship in this wave, with some obscure characters backing him up. Now, obviously, Darth Vader has been done a lot in action figure toy lines. I mean, a real lot. Well, why? Because Darth Vader is the single most popular character in Star Wars. I know, I've seen the data from working on Star Wars toy lines. And he only really has two basic outfits. His A New Hope outfit and his Empire Return of the Jedi outfit, which Rogue One, that was a whole story about which one he was wearing. Now, for Power of the Force, we only had 3 Darth Vaders released in the entire thing. There was the first version, which was then re-released on a green card, sometimes with the cape from the Shadows of the Empire release, the helmetless Vader, which we're going to talk about today, and then this updated one from the very last wave of Power of the Force that came with the flashback photos. We'll be getting to that one in time. But today we're going to talk about the helmetless Vader, or rather, removable helmet Vader, because this was a very significant figure, and hey, maybe it's why this wave was so hard to find. Well, let's jump in and talk about it. So, today, helmetless Vaders are not a big deal. We have a ton of them. In fact, they've been done in a lot of different toy lines and a lot of different scales. We've even had Darth Vaders with removable helmets with multiple pieces, different versions. But in the vintage line, we never had this. We never had a Darth Vader with a removable helmet, and there's a few different reasons for this. Now, obviously, what was under his helmet was a big surprise, and this was something that was teased throughout the trilogy. Well, I guess starting in Empire, although I guess in A New Hope we wondered. But we never had this Vader updated at the tail end of Return of the Jedi. In fact, we never even had Death Star 2 Luke, in fact, in the vintage line. But having a new Darth Vader seems like a no-brainer. And part of the reason we didn't get it is because the technology didn't exist. And I know what you're saying. Wait a minute, Toy Guru, what are you talking about? They had the technology to do these type of toys back in the early mid-'80s. I mean, we had Leia's Bouche with a removable helmet. Lando had a removable helmet. The Endor troopers, Luke, well, actually not Luke, but Leia had a removable helmet. So yeah, removable helmets did exist by the tail end of the line, but doing Vader with a removable helmet, well, his head was basically coming out like a pinhead whenever it was tried, and it just wasn't working. I mean, we are still, in this day and age, evolving toy technology. It wasn't until 2019, 2020 that we started getting pinless joints. You know, like those red pins in Spider-Man here that drive you crazy. Well, we got our first pinless Spider-Man last year. So it's 2021 when I'm recording this video, so last year would be 2020. See how math works and time travel? And obviously, Darth Vader was a big reveal for the end of Jedi, and it was a controversial one.
The most insulting installment, because Vader's beautiful black visage is sullied when he pulls off his mask to reveal a feeble, crusty old white man. They trying to tell us that deep inside, we all wants to be white.
Well, isn't that true?
Well, all joking aside, who was behind Darth Vader was a big mystery and a big reveal. And while a lot of people actually did expect it was going to be David Prowse under the mask, who actually did play Darth Vader under the mask, well, at the end of Return of the Jedi, when the harp music plays and Luke finally pulls off the helmet, essentially killing Darth Vader because he can't breathe, it's Sebastian Shaw underneath, who was still tinkered with in the special edition, having his eyebrows removed, but hey, at least he is still in the... Oh, wait, no, he's not still in the Ewok village scene. They put Hayden in that one, too. Okay, well, at least the Removable Helmet Vader figures still are going to have Sebastian Shaw's... Oh, wait, no, hold on. They did a removable helmet version of Vader in the Evolutions pack that actually has Hayden Christensen's face underneath. Oh, there's just no getting past the prequels, is there? Okay, well, back to Power of the Force 2. While this was our first removable helmet Vader, other figures in the Power of the Force 2 line took stabs at helmetless, or at least domeless, with the Gunner Station and Total Galaxy. But really, one of the most significant things about this figure is not just that we got our first removable helmet Vader, but the arm articulation. There was an elbow cut and a wrist cut with this figure, which basically meant you could get more poses from this Vader than you could any other Darth Vader that came before it. And that was pretty significant. Now, looking back, I mean, in today's day and age, in 2021, when we have the vintage collection and, figures have 21, 30 points of articulation, this doesn't seem like a big deal. But at the time, this was pretty groundbreaking. The idea that you could actually swivel the arm at the elbow, and much like Bespin Luke with the removable hand, because he had a removable hand too, you could swivel the wrist. So, well, we never got a vintage one. It was great that this one really went all out and was the most articulated. Well, maybe the Cantina aliens, but at least as far as the Darth Vader, this was the most articulated Darth Vader figure, and pretty much one of the most articulated Kenner Hasbro figures in the modern line to date. And kind of linking this figure is Admiral Piett, the one who sort of is in the first tease of who's under the helmet. Now, Admiral Piett's a really special figure to a lot of fans. In fact, he's a figure that some say could carry the entire Star Wars brand. Okay, well, maybe not. But he's a very, very key Imperial officer. Obviously, a lot of different Imperial officer figures have been done over the years, and some of them had speaking roles, some of them were just characters in the background who never got to speak or represent generic Imperial officers. Heck, we've even had box sets released that have had a whole bunch of different Imperial officers, letting us build our collection, get the entire Death Star conference room, because, hey, kids love conference rooms. Let's remember that when we're trying to put together action figure sets. Alright, well, the modern line as a whole has had a lot of Imperial officers in it, especially if you're going to compare it to the vintage line, which really only had a handful of Imperial-type figures. We're still waiting for that Imperial dignitary, Hasbro. So what is so special about Piett? Why is he the Imperial officer above other Imperial officers? Well, the big reason is because he appears in multiple movies. He's kind of like the Imperial version of Wedge Antilles. I mean, yes, Wedge Antilles actually appeared in all 3 original Star Wars movies, but at least Piett showed up in 2 of the Star Wars movies, Empire and Return of the Jedi. I guess during A New Hope he was cleaning the trash compactor. And he's had very few toys. I mean, he's had his Lego figures, he's had his 6-inch Black Series figure, but Wedge has had a whole bunch of toys. I mean, maybe being in one more movie gives you that advantage. Getting single-carded figures, getting box set figures. I mean, heck, there's even been deluxe Wedges that have been released with giant X-Wing toys, so I guess it's a good thing to be Wedge. Piett, on the other hand, not so much. Basically, down to one figure ever. We probably aren't going to get this super articulated Piett that we've all been waiting for. I hope we do, because he's kind of the Imperial officer who fans know best. He shows up, he's got the most screen time. He's in more than one movie. So, yeah, he's the Imperial Wedge. What can I say? I mean, sort of. I guess it depends on your own point of view. But he's a one-and-done figure. And, yeah, this is the only Piett we've ever gotten to this day, the Power of the Force 2 one. Alright, switching gears to building a team. Yep, something that as figure collectors we love to do, and sometimes the payoff to doing this can take years, if not decades, before we have an entire team in plastic form. Well, while this is the motivation for a lot of superhero teams, Star Wars doesn't have as many. I mean, there's Rebel pilots, and you could get all the Cantina aliens or Jabba's palace. But one of the teams that is around is the Bounty Hunters. And obviously Bounty Hunters have been expanded over the years with new characters joining with new medium, or media, but it's the Empire Strikes Back ones that we really love, and obviously Boba Fett is the king of all bounty hunters. When we were kids, getting the full Bounty Hunter set from Empire was one of the coolest things. I mean, it was absolutely achievable. And in the modern line, we've had multiple takes on the Bounty Hunters. They've all been redone, and in fact, you could even pick them all up as an entire box set when the Saga collection came out. There was a Diamond exclusive that included the latest versions. Now, for Power of the Force 2, we did get all the Bounty Hunters, and they were completed by good old Zuckass. He seems to be always the last Bounty Hunter released. It was the same thing with the Black Series. The last Bounty Hunter to be released in the Black Series was this guy, too. Now, Zuckass goes along with Forlome, and we know that they're partners and sometimes arch enemies, and the conflict between them, well, sometimes it surrounds their names. But this actually isn't as big of a deal as a lot of fans have made it out over the years. The original Kenner figures were called Forlome and Zuckass, Forlome being the bug-eyed guy and Zuckass being the robot. Now, if you look on the internet, you will find many people, including Junkman, have done great videos explaining this. I'm not going to take any of his credit or, steal his fire, but basically looking at the original script, Tuckus became Zuckass in the novelization, and then when West End Games came along in the late 80s, they were the ones who actually swapped the names, convincing Lucasfilm that Forlome should be the robot because it sounded more like a robot name. So anyway, check out Junkman's video for the whole, which one is Zuckass and which one is Forlome. I'm here just to talk about the figures, and both Zuckass and Forlome, regardless of what they're named, have gone through multiple versions in the modern line. Power of the Force 2 being the first one, but we've had sort of ultimate versions as well. In fact, Zuckass has actually only had 2, if, we're going with this guy as Zuckass, which a lot of us didn't even know this was Zuckass until the modern line, because this was really the first time he was truly identified this way. And Power of the Force 2, because it did do all of the Bounty Hunters, we could assemble our team, just like in the Vintage era, although Dengar and Boba Fett were in their Return of the Jedi look. Alright, so rounding out this incredibly hard-to-find wave in the freeze frame collection, I guess you could say, was this guy. Who is this guy? This was like one of the most obscure Star Wars figures ever done, and probably still remains so to this day. So this guy is Ishi Tib. And Ishi Tib is from Return of the Jedi, where he was created first as a maquette and then on screen. Now, Ishi Tib is the species name, not the character's name. Kind of like Wookiee is Chewbacca, or human is Luke. So we've seen Ishi Tibs in a lot of different toy lines and in a lot of different media. He's appeared in video games, he's appeared in Clone Wars, he's even shown up in the prequels. And I'm saying he, but I mean, there's females too. In fact, I'm going to show you one of the female Ishi Tibs in a moment. And Ishi Tib, again, not the character's name. That's like calling Chewbacca the Wookiee figure, or, Wicket the Ewok. And he tends to always be in the background, never really a lead role. Well, the biggest background Ishi Tib was the one from Return of the Jedi, because right over Luke's shoulder there is an Ishi Tib. In fact, that's a female Ishi Tib in Jabba's palace. It's this character here. And when Ishi Tib showed up on the list of figures that were coming out, we kind of all thought that's who we were getting, but instead we got this one. And a lot of fans were scratching their heads saying, who is that? That's not the Ishi Tib from Jabba's palace. Well, this is the Ishi Tib from the Rebel briefing room, or rather from Home 1, which was Akbar's ship. It's this guy. Yep, see, this guy right here, all the way in the background. Yeah, blink and you miss him. Not only was this a more obscure Ishi Tib from the movie, but it really wasn't the one we were expecting. I mean, it's great to have more characters to pad out our Rebel Alliance leadership or just hanging out in the Home 1 briefing scene, but we were kind of all expecting this one because this Ishi Tib has more screen time and is more recognizable. In fact, it's almost as recognizable as Squidhead or Tessic, if you will. So we still don't have this figure. In fact, the only one done was this Galoob figure for Action Fleet, kind of like the Tonica sisters who wound up in this line. So Jabba's Palace Ishi Tib still MIA, while we got the even more obscure Home 1 Ishi Tib as a member of the Rebel Alliance leadership. So, hey, at least the freeze frame told you where it was from.